Hello, Martin Petts here from F24 and welcome to this new video in our series COVID-19 Preparing for the Next Wave. Today I'm talking about exit strategy and I've split this video into two parts. The first part is talking about the new normal and the second part is talking about tools that we can use to help us manage and communicate during this situation. So, BAU, how do we get back to business as usual or the new normal? So just this week, countries have been talking about changes to their lockdowns. Australia has announced a 3-week extension, although they have relaxed a few rules around access to public places. New Zealand has announced a small extension to their level 4 lockdown to the 27th of April, although they are allowing businesses to prepare before that date for increased trade after the 27th. And the UK has also announced a 3-week extension to their lockdown. So we all want to kick off the economy again, and obviously that's always going to be a balance between getting people back to work and making sure that staff and communities are safe, but also continuing to limit the potential of transmission of the coronavirus. So the situation is always going to be a little bit fluid. Governments are also looking at ways to potentially relax rules on a regional basis. Where infections are lower, then rules can be relaxed further than if there's a spike in a certain geography. So during this fluid situation, it's very important for companies to monitor the situation closely. Things are going to be changing on a daily or even hourly basis sometimes, and it's going to be very important to avoid confusion within your organization. A dynamic company will want to communicate perhaps daily with its staff to make sure that the organization is running efficiently and safely. So also companies are going to want to make sure they have processes and tools in place to be able to react quickly because things are changing or potentially going to be changing very quickly, and businesses are going to need to react quickly to those changes. 99% of countries are still locked down right now, but we all want a way out of this situation. But right now we have an opportunity to plan for the easing of the restrictions on lockdowns. Inevitably, some countries may need to reintroduce restrictions or high-level restrictions if they see a spike in infections. But we have time right now before any potential next wave in the pandemic. Or more optimistically, a rebound that we might see. We've got time to prepare for that and stay ahead of the competition. Anyway, so we've been preparing here to get back to business. Have a quick look at this.
We're going to bake the cake and sell it to the people in the shop.
Can you keep the preparation noise down? I'm trying to film. So as you prepare and plan for your exit strategy, I'm sure there's some key questions that you have that I will try and address now. So one main one might be what workforce should I bring back into areas of the business where lockdown levels have been eased? Government advice can be unclear, especially when it comes to the context of your business, your industry. They have been quite clear on saying that where possible, individuals should work from home. So if you have areas of your business that can work from home, continue to let them do that. But also if that is the way you want to work, then make sure that you are communicating frequently about what's happening in your industry, what's happening in your specific organization, and what you expect from your staff, and what you need them to do. Also, obviously your business continuity plan is key. Make sure you're keeping that at your fingertips so you know how you should be reacting in different situations. Also have a think about things like rosters. Can you have some, you don't want everyone coming back into the office at the same time potentially to get your business up and running. Have a think about rotating staff and having some come into the office whilst others stay at home. You might also have staff that only need to come in to the office occasionally to get things up and running. And if you have geographical areas that are more locked down than others and you have branches that you can't access, maybe you can move staff to another branch if it's safe to do so and it makes sense from a business perspective. You may have some staff that are unable to come into the office because of illness or even childcare issues. But above all, the message here is workforce flexibility. Use teamwork, use managers and leaders to decide how to run their teams in the context of who can come in to the office, who's needed in the office and who needs to work at home. And potentially have deputies or buddy-buddy systems where the expert that can't come into the office is at home, and they have someone in the office to perform a task, a role under their direction. You also may be able to second staff that have previous experience back into key roles that are more needed in this situation. Above all, manage efficiently and communicate clearly in this situation is going to be key. Anyway, this is how we're doing things. Oh, things are improving. Another question might well be, do I need to modify my business infrastructure to create a special team to focus on exit strategy? Well, the name of the game here really is flexibility. I think potentially you could create an exit strategy team. It should probably involve members of your business continuity, disaster recovery teams, but also should involve key members of your HR department and your board. It should focus on workforce flexibility, community and staff safety, but also look to maximize activity and productivity under the restrictions that we're still in. But it should do all of this within the brand values of your business, the organizational ethos of your company, of your organization. The exit strategy team really should have its finger on the pulse when it comes to government directives that are coming out or being modified. And it should also be looking at things like COVID-19 audit certification, cleanliness of your organization. I've seen in the news that organizations like the Grand Hyatt in Singapore has issued a 7-step process for them to audit their own premises and to show that they are COVID-19 free and hopefully ways and processes to keep it or maximize the probability that they can keep it that way. But if they do have an infection, they have a way of communicating very quickly to shut different parts of the business down if that's necessary. Would something like this help your business? Would it help you to potentially justify to a council or to a government that you should keep running if the next wave of restrictions, next wave of infections and restrictions come in?